Hello everyone. Hello. I am just getting started, getting everything gathered. I encourage you to use these couple of seconds to gather anything you need that's going to help you for this yoga class. I think today I'm going to use my blocks. And I think that's all I'm going to need today. Of course, you can use whichever props you'd like or none at all. I do always try to encourage the use of props because I just think we all need a little bit of support, right? So I've got a window open because it looks and feels gorgeous out today. And I'm also gonna grab some incense. Yeah, I think we're gonna burn some incense for today's class. And right now for me, as I'm doing this live, it is about 2 p.m. So today I'm gonna share some poses that for my body feel really good during for an afternoon reset is what I'm calling this today. So I'm going to share a couple of poses that help me feel re-energized. And as always, you guys have explicit permission to disobey me, to not listen to what I'm cueing, and instead choose another pose or, change whatever it is you're doing to suit your needs. Be loyal to yourself first. So yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and take off my glasses. So if you guys are saying anything in the Facebook Live comments, just know that your girl is not going to be able to see it. I'll see it afterwards. But before we begin, I'd like to encourage everyone to begin today's class with 3 deep breaths before we dive into the movement. So if you'd like to inhale, pause, exhale it all out. Maybe you inhale again with me. Pause, exhale, empty. And maybe you join me for one more. Pause. Exhale, empty it all out. All right, if you'd like to join me, I'm going to begin today's class with a couple of neck circles just to start warming up the body. And so I'm going to begin with small movements, pairing my movement, however big or small, with my breath. And maybe as you keep on doing those circles, breathing in and out, you slowly enlarge your circle or keep it small, or choose any other movement. And maybe after you've gone around one direction a couple of times, maybe you reverse your circle. I'm gonna go nice and slow so I can really feel every movement. and begin an exploration of how these sensations feel in my body. And since I feel satisfied with my nose circles, I'm gonna move on ahead and you can come along with me. I'm gonna take my fingers and interlock them, creating a little like weave basket. And I'm gonna use this little basket cradle and place my hands at the top or the back of my head. And then from here, I'm gonna bring my head down and use the weight of my hands and my elbows to gently put pressure on the back of my head and my neck to invite a deeper sensation for my body. Of course, you don't have to do this pose. And if you do this pose, you don't have to pull. So we're not trying to force anything, but really what my cues are an invitation for you to invite exploration within your body. So I'm going to stay in this pose for about 5 breath cycles, just feeling the pressure, feeling what this feels like in my body. And I'm taking deep breaths, as deep as a deep breath I can do today, as much as I want to today. Then I'm going to slowly release my hands, my grip, bring my hands down, and I'll slowly roll my head up. And I'm going to transition from my seated position to a tabletop position to begin to do some cat-cow stretches. So as always, I'd like to invite you to join me. But you can take whatever pose feels good. Whatever pose you do decide to do, I encourage you to make your way to that pose slowly. There is no rush here today. So for my tabletop, I'm going to bring my knees below my hips, tuck in the lower body, the lower back, so that so I can make this pose feel a little bit more accessible to me. I'm gonna keep my fists underneath my shoulders, maybe a little bit more wide than shoulder width distance, because that feels a little bit good to me today. And I make sure that I'm not crashing or placing all of my weight into my wrist, but rather I'm gonna invite a gentle lift up from the limbs. So once I've come into a tabletop that feels good to me today, I'm gonna begin by doing cat-cow. So I'll drop the belly, slowly arching my back and lifting my head up towards the sky, the ceiling. Then I'll exhale, tuck in the lower body, and begin to curve my back, letting my head drop. And I'll do 3 more of those at my own pace, making sure that I breathe deeply, as deep as I want to today, and try as best as I can to match my movement with my breath. And when I exhale, I'm gonna push or really kind of suck in my belly so that my belly meets my back. And if that doesn't make sense to you, or that's not a move you want to do today, you can just drop that cue. And on my next exhale, I'm going to return to tabletop. Now from here, I'm going to transition into mountain pose. And to do that, I'm going to come on back onto my thighs. And I'm just going to slowly reach over for my blocks. And I'm going to use my blocks to help me come up a little bit easier. So I'll put my blocks where my hands were and finding a familiar shape in tabletop. From here, I'm going to take my right leg and bend my knee. I'm going to bring the blocks a little bit closer to my left hand, and from here, I'll untuck my foot and begin to rise from my back leg. And I'm actually going to take a downward dog. So I'm going to put the blocks back to where they were, so underneath my shoulders. And I'm going to take my right leg and bring it back to meet my leg. And from here, I'll find a familiar shape for me, which is downward dog. But it might look a little bit different than maybe what you're used to because I have blocks. So I'm going to use these blocks to bring the ground a little bit closer to me. And for me, I'm actually able to access downward dog a little bit easier with these blocks. I'm actually going to bring them up because I don't want to today. So here in downward dog, I have my knees have a slight bend in them. My head and neck are relaxed. My hands are outstretched. And I'm actually going to begin to walk my dog. So I'm going to put my weight onto one foot and then shift it to the other. Shifting the weight from one leg to the other, creating something that kind of looks like a dog walking. And I'm breathing deeply too, connecting, excuse me, my shirt was in my mouth, connecting my weight or my movement with my breath. Maybe relaxing through any tense areas throughout the body. And maybe you're able to use your breath to bring some awareness and some love into those tense areas. I'm going to take 2 more breaths here before I transition into mountain pose. I'm going to find some stillness in my downward dog. And I'm going to relax in this pose as best as I can. On my next inhale, I'll look up, tuck in the lower body, and slowly roll on up into mountain pose. And I'm going to have my head be the last thing that comes up, and I'll make sure to do it slowly so that I don't become dizzy or lightheaded. I'm going to step over here so you guys can see me a little bit better. For my mountain pose, I'm going to bring my feet together, heel toe them together, And make sure, for me today, I'm going to have my feet and legs zipped up, almost like a zipper is just zipping them up straight. And I'm going to invite you to join me for 3 forward folds and 3 beautiful and slow, nice and slow roll-ups back into mountain pose. And I'm really going to invite you to take your time with these forward folds. You don't have to overextend yourself, and in fact, I would encourage you to really do a practice of moderation and not trying to, not trying to rush through it or, roll up super fast and just trying to, there's no need to rush through the poses, right? We're not trying to get to the finale. We're not trying to just get to the end. But rather, I would encourage us to, again, have a journey of exploration into what our body feels like today and what these poses feel like today. So with that being said, I'm going to zip up my legs tight. I'm going to roll my shoulders up and back, inviting some openness, and maybe you can have some outward rotation of the shoulders. I'm going to tuck in my lower body and invite a lift through the front body, through the chest, as I ground through the back body and the lower body. I'm going to inhale and lift my arms. And here I'm going to play with a beautiful mountain pose with my arms up. So I'll stretch through my fingertips, and I'll invite some openness between my ears and my shoulders. So for me, that looks like pulling my shoulders down just a little bit, not yanking or cranking, but just pulling them away from my ears a little bit. And I'm going to tuck in that lower back. And for me, I'm going to really explore what my abdomen, what my core activation is going to look like for me today. One more breath here, reaching for the stars. And on your next exhale, maybe you join me in some beautiful jazz hands, bringing it down, forward fold, nice and slow. And in fact, if you like, you can use your blocks here to again bring the ground closer to you. I'm going to hang out here for a breath or two, really sending in lots of deep breathing, lots of deep breaths to my lower back. On my next exhale, I'm going to roll it up nice and slow, and I'm going to use my hands and trace my legs and my body as a kind of like an anchor or a reminder to myself to take it nice and slow as I roll up. Mountain pose. Now, if having your feet zipped up together is making it a little bit more difficult to balance, or perhaps maybe your knees are speaking to you, feel free to take forward fold and mountain pose with your feet hip width distance apart, maybe a little bit more. So you don't have to keep your feet up here if you don't want to, but for me this feels good. So I'm gonna again, I hope you guys don't hear my roommate. I'm gonna roll up, bringing my shoulders up and back, tucking in the lower body, and inviting a gentle lift up from my knees and my chest. Bringing my arms up, having lots of energy in the fingertips and the feet that keep us grounded. And on the next exhale, I'll gently come on down, forward fold. On my next inhale, I'll roll up. Ooh. Mountain pose. All right. I'm going to invite you to do one more forward fold and mountain pose with me before I make my way down into easy pose once more for silent meditation. Tucking in the lower body and lifting the front body. I'm going to raise my arms up, lots of energy in the fingertips with a grounding energy in the feet. Exhale, roll it down, forward fold. Tucking in the chin as I roll up into mountain pose. All right. From here, I'll do one more forward fold, but instead of coming up, I'll bring my knees down and slowly make my way back into easy pose. You can end today's class with any pose really for our silent meditation. I'm just gonna take easy pose. So from here, I'll bring my right knee down to the ground, and then my left knee down to the ground. I'll swing my legs over to one side, come on down to the bum, and then cross my legs for easy pose. I actually think today I'll take our silent meditation on a block. Yeah, that sounds good to me. All right. Once you have found your resting position, which can be easy pose, corpse pose, cobbler's pose, any pose that you can relax in. And again, I'm gonna hope that you guys cannot hear my roommate. Once you have found that pose, I'll invite you to begin to deepen your breath and trust that after the 5 minutes are up, I will gently cue us back. So here we are for our silent meditation. I'll see you on the other side. I'm going to invite you to slowly come back into your body. Perhaps you do that by wiggling your toes. Maybe then you wiggle your fingertips. And maybe finally you slowly bat the eyelashes. Thank you so much for joining me today in this afternoon reset and silent meditation. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste.